Okay. So if you go to libguides.westga.edu/HRRB, that is our bowl site, and I will go ahead and bring mine up. Share this screen, thank you. And so the bowl site looks like this, and over here under both volunteer information or Zoom link and room assignments, you can find the latest assignments. I had one high school team that dropped out even today, so we're actually only running 10 rooms instead of 11. So I'm hopeful, knock on wood, that we will actually have too many volunteers and I'll be able to dismiss some of the team volunteers to actually go watch their teams compete instead of be stuck in a room handling the competition. But I really can't tell you whether that's going to be the case until Saturday morning at 8:30 when people start checking in and I see how many spare extra people that I have. But this is the current room assignments, and we'll just talk about how the bowl is going to run and what the different people are going to do. So for each person, what you will do is you'll go into whatever your room is. So if you're a Veronica Cook, you'll go into breakout room 3 and you serve as the moderators. My moderators I'm going to email tonight, and they will have a copy of the questions in Excel with links to a scan of the page that has the answer of the book on it, as well as a print version of all of the questions so that it's just easier to read off print than it is to like have yet another window open of Excel. So a lot of people just prefer to read off of print. So when you get into your breakout room, the first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that everybody's sort of renamed to who they are. And the kids should have practiced this, but if you click on participants, you can click on your name and then more. And you can actually rename yourself. So like I could rename myself as coordinator, if I could spell coordinator, Jean Cook. And then that way, wherever I pop up, people will say, oh, that's coordinator and her name is Jean Cook. Students will be labeled, the actively competing students will be labeled as like EPHS 1, EPHS 2, EPHS 3, EPHS 4, Johnny, EPHS 5, Kimmy. And then that way you can tell both what the student's name is and who should be talking to you in each round. So the kids will log into their breakout room that they've been assigned for each round. The 4 volunteers are going to stay in the same breakout room each of the 7 rounds or 5 rounds. The teams are going to switch between the different rooms, but the 4-team volunteer team will stick together and stay in the same room the whole time. The moderator is just going to be in Zoom. And I actually don't recommend sharing your screen because it tends to make Zoom do all sorts of weird things. And then as moderator, really what you want is just a panel of faces. So you can tell if people are trying to talk to you. Sometimes you forget to unmute yourself. You'll get a bunch of people going like this, trying to go like, hey, so it's very nice to have just a panel of faces so you can very quickly identify who's talking to you. Are they the right person to be answering? And talk to those person. And really the moderators will just be messing with the questions, asking the questions, determining whether they're correct, and monitoring the Zoom chat and the Zoom panels. The next person that we have in each room is a console judge. The console judge is going to be running buzzin.live, which is our buzzin system. That is how students will log in. So we have a link to buzzin.live off of our homepage under this Zoom link and room assignments. You can also just click on buzzin.live and get to there that way. Under volunteer information, if you're assigned to be a console judge, you can find that there is console judge buzzin instructions and settings. Again, I suggest print these out, or you could just look up them on your screen, but they are a screenshot and explicitly exactly what you click on, what do you do to be a console judge. And honestly, by the time you get to like question 3 of round 1, you'll have this down pat. So the console judge is just going to be messing around with buzzin.live. The moderator really doesn't even have to get into buzzin. They could just be watching that panel of faces and monitoring the Zoom chat. So starting after this session, I'm going to post the buzzin.live keys for each of our different sessions, but I'll go ahead and start one so we can play around and practice. So I follow my instructions. It says go to buzzin.live, click create game. And then it says click use key. And then what's my premium key? I'm going to go ahead and copy that in there. And then it says click OK. And then yes. And then it says, OK, click settings and ensure the settings match the screenshot to the right. Again, it's a screenshot, but it tells you for your reference, here's exactly what it should be. Show teams, show points, no early buzz penalty. All points are set at 10. So every question is worth 10 points. There's no penalty for wrong answers. We want one buzz only to be on because we only care about the first student to buzz in for any given question. If you want to, they have pop as their default, but if you want to play around with the different names, feel free to. I actually like default more than pop. Allow the buzzing sound on their devices. We want the first buzz only, not every single time somebody buzzes, because that's going to be like supremely annoying, and we really only care about the first person to buzz in. And then finally, we have turn off player points and turn off the timer. And so once I do that, I close my settings, and then my room is set up as console judge for the entire bowl. What you will do at the beginning of each round is you'll say, okay, on my room assignments, this is round, we'll say round 3, and I'm in room 4. So for round 3, my 2 teams are Walker School and St. Anne's School. So I can add the teams down here, Walker School, and I'll add my second team, which is St. Anne School. And then the console judge will be saying, they'll be doing this while the moderator is reading a very explicit script that says, okay, let's remember what the rules are. Remember that you have like a 2-minute a 2-minute time limit if you have a technical issue. And so the console judge will say, hey, I am ready to have everybody load into the buzzin.live. So please go into buzzin.live and join this room code. And if you would like to join this room code, feel free to go ahead and join that. I will do it myself just to show you what it looks like. Buzzin.live. And so so if the students are just going to have that room code and they're going to write buzzin, and then they're going to label themselves by like what their code name is. So once the students get in, you can see that they are able to click on buzz to buzz in. They can click on team points to see what the total scores are for each of the teams, and they can join their team. We are allowing the coaches to also get into buzzin.live if they want to just do that on like their phones or an additional tab or whatever. But I am asking that only the actively competing students join a team. And if we get to the issue where people are buzzing in and they're not those actively competing students, and that's really an issue, we can change that and just decide that only the console judge and those actively competing kids can get in there. But I've had several coaches go like, how are we monitoring scores? We're doing it in buzzin.live. So I'd like to let them in there if they behave. So if I have any of you guys want to, if you have your phone or if you just want to open up a new tab in the browser and go to buzzin.live and join game code 889221, it's in our chat. You can join us. And Phyllis, do you have a question?
I did, Jean. I didn't know if this is time for questions or not, but how do we handle it if a student, as soon as they sign in, they hit the buzzer and they don't mean to? Just delete that?
Yes. So if somebody wants to, right now, it's anybody can buzz in if somebody wants to buzz in. Woohoo! Summer buzzed in. So you can see if everybody else is trying to buzz in, you'll see that it goes to locked. Only the first person to buzz in is recognized as buzzed in. And the console judge will see, okay, Summer buzzed in. So the console judge will say, Summer from Sawyer Road, I'm guessing Sawyer Road, student 1, Summer, can you please unmute and Zoom and give us your answer? And so Summer will go into Zoom, she'll hit unmute, she'll say, oh, I think the answer is the turtle crossed the road. And the moderator will say, yes, that's correct, or no, that's incorrect. Again, the console judge is identifying which student should be speaking and telling them to unmute and Zoom. So the moderator really doesn't need to be in buzzin.live at all. They can just be waiting in, looking at the panel of faces, making sure that SR1 Summer is the person who is actually answering the question. Once you're done with that, you can clear the buzzers, and that opens it up for everybody else to buzz in. So we'll run through a sample question that a student might have. I want to point out, yes, lots of people have joined teams. If you have people who have not joined teams, as the console judge, you are free to assign them to a team if you need to assign them to a team. They can also assign themselves to a team. And so I am going to, Louisa just buzzed in. I am going to actually clear the buzzers and I will start asking a question. And this is how it's going to work. In the first round, the moderators are going to read through the rules of the round and then we launch straight into our question. So each question kind of goes like this. All right, question number 1, open for everybody. Console judge, please clear the buzzers. Just don't get eager. You gotta wait until I answer the question, because if I say I'm starting to read the question, I'm gonna stop reading the question as soon as I get that buzz in. And so if the moderator is not in buzzin.live, the console judge needs to say stop once a student buzzes in. So the console judge doesn't need to have the camera up, but they're unmuted the whole time. So they can say stop, I gotta buzz in. All right, so I'm gonna clear the buzzers and say, first question of the round, this is open to everybody. We're clearing the buzzers. In the book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, who is Harry Potter's best friend? Okay, so console just says stop. Ken from the Walker School, please unmute in Zoom and give us your answer.
I don't know, Gibby.
Incorrect, the answer is not Gibby. So I will just say incorrect. I will clear the buzzers, and now only the rules are that once one team buzzes in, we read the question in its entirety for the other team. If a student buzzes in while you're still reading the question, you stop right away. That's why the console judge says stop as soon as someone buzzes in. But once they get it wrong, the other team gets to hear it in their entirety. Now they may jump the gun and buzz in while you're still reading, and so you say stop and once they buzz in. But usually they've been trained to wait until the full question. So I'm going to clear the buzzer. I'm sorry, that's incorrect. This question is now only for St. Anne's School. Oh, Shani. Okay, I started reading the question, so you buzzed in. So Shani, can you please, from St. Anne's School, can you please unmute yourself in Zoom and answer the question?
It's Ron Weasley.
Incorrect. It turns out you should have waited until I got all the way through the question, because the question was, in the book Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, who was Harry Potter's best friend who was raised by Muggle parents? You buzzed in too early. So of course we know that the answer is Hermione Granger. I'll give another. So at that point, nobody gets points, and you just move on to the next question. So question number 2, in the kids show SpongeBob SquarePants, who is SpongeBob's best friend? Oh, somebody buzzed in and didn't give me a name. Blank, do you want to answer? I'm not sure who that is. Somebody who's buzzed in. Somebody has. Do we know who buzzed
Me,
in?
so it's Patrick.
Oh, hey, Julie. Like, I
Patrick.
can't even rename you. So
Patrick the
Julie,
Starfish.
I don't know who it is either. I've never watched SpongeBob. I'm gonna say you're right. Yay, Julie's right. So Julie, Walker School gets the points. So I hit plus here. That gives Julie the 10 points, and because she's assigned to the Walker School, you'll see that now the Walker School has 10 points on their score. So the console judge is going to be responsible for 2 main things. 1, setting up the game at the beginning of the whole, filling out all the settings at the beginning of all the rounds. And then every single time the moderator begins to ask a question, they will clear the buzzers so that people can buzz in. The number 1 issue that happens to moderators is they start reading the question and we forgot to clear the buzzers. So now you have 10 kids who are all like, yay! And we don't know which of the 10 kids would have been first. So we have to throw out that question and go ask another question. So it's very important. I even say moderators, if you even want to say, all right, I'll read the question again just for St. Anne's School, please clear the buzzers. Or reading this question for everybody, please clear the buzzers before you start reading, just to make sure that those buzzers are cleared. So once that happens, we go through 10 questions. You can have a tie at the end of the 10 or 15 questions if you're in a high school round, that's fine. What we do is we add up all the scores at the end of the bowl, and if there is a tie between the total cumulative score over all the rounds, then we'll announce a tiebreaker and go into a tiebreaker with just those 2 people. But any given round can end on a tie, that's fine. So at the end of the round, you should have, I don't know, maybe Walker School's at 60 and St. Anne's School's at 30, 20. So we say, all right, that's the final question of the round. Console judge, scorekeeper will say our final round, our final score is 60. and for the Walker School and 20 for the St. Anne School. So that's the main responsibilities of the console judge. If we have a scorekeeper, which we should, the scorekeeper will then go into the Zoom chat and they'll say, here's our final scores. Walker School 60, St. Anne 20, and get the coaches to type yes, or that's correct, or something in the chat to like literally write down, yes, I agree to that score for my team for this round. Once you've got that score, the scorekeepers will go back into the main bowl page, and we have a score submission form here. And so they'll just say, okay, I was in round 4, it was round 4, I was in breakout room 4, team 1, the Walker School got, what did I say, 60? Team 2 got St. Anne, ooh, hello. Where is it? St. Anne got 20, and then submit. And the nice thing about this form is it actually even allows you to submit another response, so you don't even have to like refresh the page. And once I have all the scores, official scores submitted in from a level, we will dismiss the team. So the scorekeepers, what they're going to be doing is they are going to be on buzzin.live. They can just log in as another person, as like another player, and just not associate themselves with the school. And their job is to watch this and make sure 2 things happen. 1, that the buzz is clear at the beginning of each question so that this buzz goes back to green. 2, that the score is updated accurately as different students get the scores in. And then 3, at the end of the round, they go into Zoom chat, they write what the current final score is and get a yes from both of the coaches. And then they go into score submission and they submit that score to us. That's what the scorekeepers are doing. They're helping monitor buzzin.live to make sure that it's refreshing and working the way it should. And then at the end of each round, they're submitting the scores. The other thing, the other volunteer in each room is the timekeeper. We do have a timekeeping piece on this, but honestly, like, don't use it. It's a nightmare to use, and to remember to reset that as well as clear the buzzers every time is just asking for trouble. The only time is 10 seconds. Once the moderator finishes reading a question, you have 10 seconds to buzz in. Once you are recognized and you unmute yourself in Zoom, you have 10 seconds to answer. So, and it could be an unofficial 10 seconds. Nobody has to have a stopwatch. You could just count out 10 in your head, and that's fine. So what I want is for the timekeepers will be in Zoom. They will have the chat up and help catch people who are asking questions in the chat, or if someone is unmuted in the chat, make sure the right person in the panel of faces is talking. If they want to, they can help, or the judges can help by updating the scores as we go along, question to question in the chat, just to help have another way of keeping track of that. And then they'll be unmuted as well, because if they need to say time, they're unmuted and they can say time. So the volunteers are going to be unmuted the whole time. The kids are going to be muted unless they are recognized and told to unmute and answer a question. But basically, the real problem is that these questions are written by volunteers, and some of them are a little bit iffy, even despite our best efforts. So I have a copy of every single one of the books, all 40 of them, and I will be hanging out in the coordinator breakout room. So if a student answers and you say the student is incorrect, or you say a student is correct and the other team has an issue with that, the 10 seated actively competing students can issue a challenge. And the way they do that is by typing challenge or C in the Zoom chat. You'll notice Zoom chat doesn't make a noise. So if you're a moderator and you're looking down at your paper reading the questions, it's very easy to miss that. So you might have coaches or kids unmute themselves to try and get your attention before you get too far into the next question. They can only issue challenges on the current question. As soon as you start the next question, they're no longer allowed to issue a challenge about that question. If you have a challenge, the different questions all have the answer, as well as a link to a screen capture of the page that has that answer on it, to help you make determinations about whether or not it's correct. But if you, and also the kids and the coaches all recognize you haven't read the books, that's fine. We don't expect people to read 40 books to volunteer for this thing. So sometimes you can very quickly, within like 15 to 20 seconds, work it out in the room. If you can't, then only the moderator will come into, will choose the breakout rooms under more, and then go into breakout room 1 where I am, and they will talk to me about what the challenge is. They'll say, team 1 said this, I said that was incorrect. Team 2 said that, I said that was correct. Team 1 challenged, here's the thing. So they can give me a neutral accounting. I can check out the books. I'll make a determination, give the points to team A, give the points to team B, throw it out entirely, just ask a new question, so that we can move the ball along as quickly as possible. And if they're mad at the ruling, they can get mad at me, not you. I don't care if they're mad at me, because they're stuck in their breakout rooms and they can talk to me after the bowl. But that will allow me to take the heat. You could just say, hey, I told the lady and this is what she said we're going to do. We're going to try and make the bowl move along as efficiently as possible. So we do that for 10 questions. Again, the moderator is just checking the panel of faces, monitoring the chat, and reading the questions and determining whether things are right or wrong. I will say with the challenges, a lot of times with challenges, what I like to do is, if I say the first team is incorrect and they challenge, I'd like to go ahead and read it for the second team just to get their answer before I hear the challenge from the first team, because they might like give away what the correct answer is in their defense of whatever their answer is. But you just sort of, you hear what their argument is at the end of the question. If you can settle it right away, that's great. If not, immediately go on to break room 1 and ask us what you would like us to do about that topic. So the moderators is just reading the questions, watching the panel of faces, hanging out in Zoom. The console judge is hanging out in Buzz in Live. They create the room code at the beginning of the sessions. I will say at the end of each round, what's really cool about Buzz.live is it allows you to reset really easily. So at the end of each round, once you've written down the final score and got the coaches yes and the scorekeepers submitting the score form, you can wipe out your 2 teams. You can add the teams for the next round. And then under settings, you can click remove all players and remove all points. And now the classroom is set immediately ready to go for the next round. So you don't have to do all of the settings every time. You just have to do the settings once. And even that bit that I told you about is very clearly and explicitly written out in the console judge instructions. So that's what the console judge will be doing, is they'll be running the Buzz in Live. Scorekeeper will be helping them monitor Buzz in Live, as well as submitting the scores at the end of each round. Timekeeper will be helping monitoring Zoom chat and making sure that the right person's talking in Zoom. At the end of each round, we ask the teams to stay in their breakout rooms. Once I get all of the scores in through the score submission form, I will send a message out in Zoom, and it'll say something like this. And I'll probably send that out like twice, maybe once every 30 seconds or so, to try and capture people. It doesn't make a noise, but it does go out to all of the moderators and all of the students and all of the coaches. And so really, if only like 1 or 2 teams manage to catch it as it flashes by, they'll start a domino effect of switching rooms so that everybody will switch at the same time.
Jean, where will we see it?
You should, usually it flashes up at the top of the panel. This is part of, I'm going to stop sharing. So I will do it again, but it'll look up something like, it should be, it's usually like a blue message sort of at the top of the panel of faces, right there. So sometimes during your thing, and unfortunately I can't just send it to one division. So sometimes you might just see that like EPA, HS teams go to round 4 or something like that. And you can ignore it if it's not your section, but that's how we're going to make the announcements to switch between the different rooms. And again, it doesn't make a noise, but we're going to have like 60 odd people who are hopefully one of the 11 elementary school team kids of 10 each, plus their 2 coaches, plus the 20 volunteers of each S. If any one of those people is looking at their screen when that message flies by, they'll start the domino effect of switching the rooms. So I think it'll work out pretty well. At the end of your final room, please stay in there until I formally dismiss you, because I need to total up, I need to get all the scores in from your division, total them together and see if there's going to be a tiebreaker. And then if there is, I'll make that announcement then and make sure that those two teams know which room they should go in for a tiebreaker. But that's basically how the bowl works. So I will take questions now.
Jean, I have a question.
Okay,
If
you first and then Louisa, you'll go next.
if there is a need for a tiebreaker, how will you alert us? Will it still be the little blue message across the top?
Yes, so I will say, I don't want to, I'll do tiebreaker for EPHS and South Paulding High School in room 10 or something like that. And then because they'll be hanging out in the breakout room that they're assigned, I can even very quickly leave the coordinator breakout room and go into their breakout room and say, hey, East Paulding, I need you guys to get over to room 10 so we can do a tiebreaker for you. And then go over to wherever, South Paulding is and say, hey, South Paulding, can you go over there? So I'll also have the coaches, should have the coaches' phone numbers as well. So if I need to contact them that way, I will. Tiebreaker rounds are just 5. So every student should have the chance to answer at least 60 questions against another team. We have odd numbers of teams in all of the different rounds. So elementary school is going to have 7 rounds. The middle school is going to have 7 rounds and the high school is going to have 5 rounds. So in order to make sure that everybody answers enough questions, elementary school and middle school will answer 10 questions a round, and then the high schools will answer 15 questions per round, but they'll each get 60 total. So that's part of the reason why we have a loose schedule, but it's a very loose schedule. I expect that we're going to start we'll start at 9. 9 will run a little bit long as we have to read the entire rules out for the first round. But after that, it's usually like we start a little late and then we pick up and we get a little bit early. So as soon as I get all of the scores in from a level, we'll dismiss that level and they can go start their next round as soon as possible. Louisa, you had a question?
Yes, thanks, Jean. 2 hopefully easy questions for you. When we as the volunteers, obviously not the students, when we remain in our breakout rooms, because Buzz in Live is starting a new game, does that mean we have to, I'm the scorekeeper, for example, do I need to then rejoin the new game each time?
Because right, if you're the scorekeeper and not the console judge, you'll be joining as like a player, just an unaffiliated player. And I mean, just don't hit the buzz-in. Don't hit buzz. I mean, you're watching it to make sure it goes green when it needs to go green, but just don't hit it. Just like the coaches can get in there, just don't hit buzz. But yeah, you'll be kicked out when the console judge kicks out all the players. You're unfortunately going to be kicked out too. You can only have one sort of senior admin person per buzz in.
Yeah. No, that's fine. And I take it, will the code always be different each time? So we'll just be waiting for that. Or they'll be the same.
Correct. The code should be the same, and so long as they don't end the buzz in live and restart with the same, the key is going to keep working. So if they do accidentally end it, they can restart it again. They're just going to have to do all the settings of like first buzz only, make sure that the player scores don't show up, all that stuff.
Got it. Okay.
But so long as they instead delete the teams and reset the players and whatever, then the game code should remain the same throughout the whole thing.
Fine. Worst case scenario, if we have to start with a new code, they can just let us know over the Zoom.
They'll put it in, they're going to have to put it in the chat at the beginning of each round anyway, because you'll have new kids in.
Got it. Okay, so the other question I have as the scorekeeper, if I remain in that role tomorrow, I know if there is a console judge as well, is it me or the console judge that will be updating the scores on Buzz in Live? I know
the console judge will be doing that. They're the only ones who have that administration thing. You'll have a player view, but it's to make sure that they, if you notice that they said, okay, 10 points to East Paulding High School and East Paulding High School is still at 30 points, you might pipe up and say, excuse me, make sure you add 10 to East Paulding High School.
That's fine. So
If you're looking for
it's
something to do during the rounds, you might go in and you don't mind, you might go into Zoom chat and update it, like question 2, EPHS 10, South Cobb High School 0, EPHS 20, South Cobb High School 0, you know, each time if you want to, but that's not really necessary. Again, if the coaches are allowed to be in buzzin.live, they can monitor the score there.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's fine. That cleared that up for me. Thank you.
But again, it's if we have 2 eyes on it, hopefully it will have less technical, like, it's not even technical issues, it's just human error. Even when you're face to face, the number 1 issue that happens to moderators is that we forget to reset the console before we start reading the next question. Like, I've done dozens and dozens of bowls and it still happens to me at least once a bowl. So it's gonna happen. That's why every round has 2 spare alternate questions that you only read if there is usually a moderator or console judge issue. So you don't read them as tiebreakers. Again, it's just supposed to be, I forgot to reset the console judge, or this question, okay, that challenge is really weird and apparently this very clear answer is not very clear and I have no idea. Throw it out, ask a new question. So yeah.
Thank you.
We're volunteers. Do your best. And we're very grateful for your time. Ingrid, do you have a question?
Okay, so like there's one in every group and tonight it's going to be me. So I followed the link from the website to go into Buzzing Live.
Mhm.
When to create game, I put the code in, it tells me the code is invalid.
Which code well, I haven't updated the buzzin.live codes yet. So which code did you put in?
I put in the 889221. So that
Okay, so that's the game code that you use to restart. If you want to see what it looks like, here, I will, you know what? Screw it. No, hold on, come back. Okay, why not? If you want to pick one of the random codes over there, those are the actual premium keys that we have for each one of the ones. And you use that premium key to open up a buzzin.live session, and that will give you the game code that you share with the kids. But each breakout room is going to have one of those keys associated with them. So if you want to, I don't know, pull 52520 BFD27 or something like that, you'll see what it looks like from the admin point of view.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions? Oh, Summer Davis, is the console judge responsible for awarding points? Yes, they are, because they are the only ones who can click the little plus sign only shows up on their view. Any other questions?
This is Nancy. I have an easy question. As moderator, should I ask if everything's cleared before I start reading questions?
It's not technically in the script, but yeah, it's a like when I read questions for a bowl, I like to say question number 1, resetting the buzzer, question number 1, open to everybody, or resetting the buzzer, question number 2, this is just for Fairfield Elementary. And then I read the question just to make it very clear who's allowed to buzz in and make sure. And sometimes, honestly, I'm like the only volunteer in the room, and that's my own reminder to myself to hit clear the buzzer or to like check that the buzzer is clear. Nancy, I will say we had one team pull out today, so we're actually only running 10 rooms instead of 11. So right now you're homeless, but you're like my backup moderator in case in case I have a moderator no-show on Saturday, because there's been a couple of them who haven't shown up at these trainings and you don't really know until Saturday morning if they're going to show up or not. But if not, like I said, we're going to dismiss the team volunteers to go back to their teams, and they'll be allowed to get into the Zoom and follow their teams from like bracket to bracket to room to watch their kids compete if they want to. And I'm hoping to get at least 1 or 2 volunteers to hang out with us in the coordinator room and help us transfer scores from there's a score sheet, and then there's like a score tabulation thing of where the results come in from the form versus the actual like score sheet we're using to total things. So we'll find a place for you, but I can't tell you exactly where it will be until tomorrow. Would you, last year you said you weren't that comfortable being a moderator, so I didn't want to thrust you into that role if I wasn't sure that you would be comfortable doing it. But if you'd be comfortable doing it, I can send you a copy of all the questions if you like.
Just send it, and I got to do it sometime. This is like my 4th one. I think I should be over it by now.
Well, I'll show you real quick what a sort of us coordinators are going to be doing if you're that interested. So the coordinators are going to have, this is my life right now. The coordinators, I'm going to share this room with everybody, and the coordinators will have this. This is our score sheet where we're going to be totaling up the scores from all the different teams, but they'll actually come from the teams, not in that, they'll come from the team results through the responses of that form. So it'll be taking something that says, okay, it's round 4, and that 60 goes for the Walker School, that 60 would go here. And it's helping us monitor, okay, has all of the East Paulding, has all the elementary school people come in yet or not? Double checking that we, transfer the scores over correctly, that we added them up correctly, all that fun stuff. So I anticipate it might be busy, especially if the coordinators are handling a lot of challenges, which knock on wood they won't, but in case having somebody there whose job it is to sort of concentrate more on the scores will help with that too. So that's where I live tomorrow. Ooh, all of these different windows open. Chat. I haven't sent the questions in just because I was waiting until after this volunteer training session. I will send the questions, final update to the coaches here shortly, as well as I will send the moderator questions post haste after this to the currently assigned moderators. And honestly, I know I sent you guys a volunteer thing on Wednesday that was like, here's your preliminary room assignments. A lot of those have changed in the last 2 days as different people came on and other people got sick and had COVID and all sorts of other things. So really until tomorrow at like 8:30 to 8:45, I can't guarantee where you're going to be. But honestly, by the time we get to like midway through the first round, none of these roles are particularly difficult to do. So any other questions? Okay, well, in respect for your time,